Hello, hello. Today is day 20 of our 21 days for cultivating a connection with your inner spirit. And a request was this idea about a punishing God, that God will punish me if I don't get it right, if I don't do everything right, if I don't follow all the commandments exactly. And I definitely have personal experience with this, having grown up in the religion that I did. And I realize, I mean, when I think about it, it's actually not a laughable matter at all. It was really amazingly bad, the programming that me and my cohorts were taught about, like, the slightest infraction and you could go to hell. And this God was, like I said, I've said this so many times before, this highly narcissistic, very punitive, punishing God. One minute loved you, the next minute was going to sue his venom on you. And with the day I was like, the devil's more like trustworthy because he's always a shit. And I don't for one moment now believe this force of love, whatever you want to call it, that has created the solar system, the mountains, the oceans, all the creatures, all of us, in any way is punishing. And it's hard when you look at everything that's going on in the world. And that's where that biblical quote, turn the other cheek. I mean, I was basically taught, if somebody slaps you, turn the other cheek and let them slap you more, which is virtually what the God of my understanding was doing. But the idea is, and I love this, and it makes more sense to me, is turn the other cheek. You turn away from what you don't want so that you turn towards what you do want. And so this is where I'll go back to, depending on what you watch, what you listen to, what are you filling your head with? Are you filling your head with all the woes of the world? Do you watch the news every night and then go to sleep on that information? And is the news there? Is it really newsworthy? Yeah. Is it good to be informed? Sure. I could make a case either way. But is it adding to your life to watch this stuff? Is it adding to your life to watch, horrible things? And again, it's not to be in denial of it, but if it causes you a ton of stress, if it creates more that feeling like the world's going to hell in a handbasket, then I would suggest you reconsider that. And look towards things that you want. And this does go to the thoughts or things thing. Do I believe that? Yeah, I do. I do to a large degree. I believe, thoughts are things. But I also see where that's been taken to extreme, and like, you've attracted this into your life. You created this, whatever's this health condition, you've attracted this abuse, you've attracted it. Instead of seeing that differently and being like, no, what if whatever happens in my life that doesn't appear to be like great, or it could even feel dark or bad, is actually there to help awaken me, so that I can learn to love and accept myself more and learn to stop punishing myself, like maybe the way I learned to punish myself through this concept and idea of a very punishing God. So anyway, let's karate chop. Even though I'm not sure how I feel about this, is this God of my understanding a punishing God that could brutalize me for the most minor infraction? I don't know where I land with this. I choose to acknowledge my confusion now. Even though maybe I have this belief in a wrathful God, in a punishing God. What if it could be possible? Nothing could be further from the truth. Even though I learned to believe in a punishing, punitive God, what if I could see this differently? Even just a little bit now. An eyebrow, this punishing, punitive God that has such human characteristics one minute this God loves me, the next minute this God's going to sue his venom on me. It's like living in an abusive situation, waiting for the shoe to drop, not knowing what's coming next. When's the next bad thing going to happen? But what if I could start to see this differently? What if God doesn't make bad things happen to people to punish them? What if we have free will? And what if this human experience is really different than our spiritual beings know? What if I could just consider, entertain the idea that there's not a punishing God lording over everyone and deciding who wins and who loses? What if it could be possible that there really is such a thing as soul curriculums? Things that we come into this lifetime to learn. And what if sometimes we learn the most through the challenging experiences? Not because God is punishing anyone, but because our soul wants to grow and develop and become richer in experience. And what if that happens through challenging circumstances? Because it helps us awaken and cultivate this connection with our inner spirit that enriches our lives and helps us through the hard times and blesses us with goodness. And take a breath. And I know this it's interesting, the things that can be so controversial on this. And again, I was raised in a very punitive, punishing, religious experience. And I remember the first time a friend of mine mentioned to me the idea of reincarnation, and I completely was like, get away from me, like rejected it. Like, I don't even want to hear about that. The programming in me was so deep, it actually freaked me out when she said that. And I was in my early 20s, well, probably even younger, but like 19, 20, 21. It was like, it was fascinating as I grew older, and within a few years, I started to personally believe in that. And again, I'm not here to tell anyone what to believe at all. But I noticed, I was like, wow, that makes sense. That I had such a strong negative reaction to that idea because it was actually sort of imploding the beliefs that had been programmed into me. And what I find is when we have beliefs that we're like, we're open to it. Like, this is what I believe. It doesn't mean anybody else has to believe this. This is my thoughts and feelings about it. It can be different for you. when we have that, when we're in that space and we have that, we're just freer to be like, okay, I don't know what all the answers are. I know this is what feels true for me. I know this is what, but whatever you believe is fine for you to believe. It's when we get hell-bent on trying to convince someone else what they should believe. And I see that's where these explosions of like, you could call them fights that take place even, in social media and that, because, I mean, trust me, I've banged my shopping cart in certain arenas where I'm super opinionated about stuff. And I know that about myself where I'm like, no, that's my opinion. Like, I'll give you an example. We had a wild horse that was mowed down in December about 3 years ago by a guy going 90 in a 35. I had a lot to say about that. I was like, there's no reason to be driving 90. And he wasn't, they caught him on a dash cam. He had super erratic behavior and all that. And this beautiful being of a horse was mowed down and killed that we saw right after it was born. And it was a young stallion. And like, I had a lot of opinions about that. And I was very disturbed that he got off so easily with basically a slap on the wrist. And I had opinions about that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, having our opinions about that, but it's that idea if we're just so locked into a belief, there's no space. There's no space for something that could actually be incredibly helpful to us, incredibly enriching to us to come through. So this will be posted on YouTube as well. And again, it's just to invite the idea, like, what if there's not a punishing God? What if that's not it at all? Like, what if that's a program that I learned that really isn't true? Like, what if that could be possible? To entertain the idea. And like I said, when that friend of mine, when I was very young, was talking about reincarnation, I was so rejecting of the idea. I was like, wow. A few years later, I was like, that makes sense. I was so rejecting of that idea because it was really starting to unearth the programming that I had been taught. And I think a part of me was terrified. And now I'm like, it's just something I'm like, oh, I totally have a belief in it. It makes way more sense to me than what I was raised to believe. I mean, it just makes so much more sense. So anyway, hope you found this helpful, and we'll see you back here tomorrow for day 21. And that'll be the end of this series. Bye for now. Have a great day or evening, wherever you are, or morning.